So what do you do on closing day when you have nobody to fund your purchase contract and you are ready to close your deal? This is something that I want to talk about today, guys. Normally I talk about double closes. In the last few videos, I talked about assigning versus double closing, the requirements to get your double close funded so that you don't have to come out of pocket to close these deals. And I talk about a few other things in the transactional lending world. Now, today I wanted to share a very specific deal and story and basically showcase that sometimes you don't know if you need something until you actually need it. The last place you want to be looking for those funds is at the closing table. You want to make sure you're creating the relationships ahead of time, and that's what we're going to talk about in this deal breakdown in this video. So let's get into it. One last thing before we get into it, guys, I would love for you to like and subscribe. If any of this content or previous content has been helpful to you in growing your business, or we've connected on some front, let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if there's something I can improve on. I'm looking to grow this channel, talk more about transactional lending so that I can be a resource for your business. Now, like I said, this is a friend of mine actually in my local market. The cool thing is that we've met a few years ago. We talk about each other's business and how he's wholesaling and flipping, what type of deals that I fund as a transactional lender and how that's going. And from the very get-go, he never needed my services whatsoever. He's a cash wholesaler, so most of his leads are pre-foreclosures and foreclosures. So the sellers don't typically need a lot of EMD, which is another service I provide. They don't need large amounts of earnest money on these purchase contracts. He's typically funding 100 to maybe $500 per contract, which is no big deal. He is also flipping homes, so he makes a profit and builds his relationships with end buyers that he wholesales deals to because he can relate to them on that front of the flipping side of his business. As you can see, no real need for transactional funds in his business because he is thriving on his own. And as we talked, this is us building a relationship over the next few years. So when he found out this deal we're going to talk about came to his table, he knew exactly who he could call. And he didn't have to go searching. And trust me, when you guys hear about the logistics of this deal, the last thing you would want to be doing is worrying about where the capital is going to come from. So this deal came to him from one of his lead sources, and it was a probate deal. There was about 7 siblings on this deal. If you don't know about probates, basically they could possibly have multiple siblings or multiple owners because of the passing of a family member or something like that. So these 7 siblings lived all over the country, and one of them was even outside the country. So he knew that he had a lot of work to do when it came to collecting signatures, especially on closing day because they need settlement statements signed and whatnot. There was a lot of negotiating on that front on how it's going to work. His buyer had no clue. He already had previous relationships with his buyer, so the buyer knew he could deliver him a good deal. The buyer also disclosed his price he was willing to pay for that because of their previous relationship. So he knew going into the deal before getting it under contract what it would be worth. He put down $40,000. And the reason for that is because he knew all of the work he was going to have to do was going to take away from the other opportunities. He was about to spend some time in this deal, speaking with the other siblings, getting them all together, getting them to agree even, read the contract together, review it, and sign it, and then open escrow. So there was a ton of work on his part, but getting it for $40,000 in the right neighborhood was pretty amazing. He was able to do that because he was solving a pain point for these 7 siblings, bringing everybody together, taking care of everything for them. Now, the one who was outside the country, that became a logistical nightmare when it came to getting an American notary out there in Italy where he was actually located. So he had to put that together, get those documents overnighted to title just so that he could close on time for his end buyer. And don't worry, guys, I'm going to get to the purchase price so that you can know what the spread is on here and why he chose to double close. So once he collected the signatures from all of the siblings, the purchase contract did not have to get notarized. So that wasn't too bad. It was just mailing it around so that he could actually get their signatures on the purchase contract. Once that was in place, he now has a fully executed purchase and sale agreement on the AB, is what we call it on the double close. And then he went straight to his end buyer and executed the BC contract between him and his end buyer. Now that he has both contracts, he's opened escrow. Both contracts specify the same closing day. So he hit all of the marks as far as me being able to fund that deal. Now we just had to actually execute. So on closing day, the end buyer funded his funds into escrow. I receipted those funds from title. They provided a receipt that they had received it. And then I sent my funds in to close that deal. So now that all of the funds were in escrow, we were able to sign and close, and he got paid. The amount that was receipted in title for that purchase was $125,000. He acquired the property for $40,000. So he walked away with $85,000. Now, he did have closing costs and fees, but to make an $85,000 spread, he covered all of his costs, no problem. He knew exactly where to go, and he walked away with a net of roughly $75,000 on this deal. So again, what I really want to get across here is that you don't know what you need until you actually need it. And the last time to look for that is at the closing table. So you never know when you're gonna need somebody as a resource. I would love to be in your contact list as a transactional lender who is your go-to for every single deal. I specialize in creative strategy, and not only do I fund earnest money and double closes, which are fairly simple transactions, pretty straightforward to everybody, but I also specialize in creative finance and funding, so I can help you structure and fund your deal. Let me know in the comments below what was helpful to you in this video. If you've watched previous videos, please share. I'd love to meet with everyone in your network and be the go-to transactional lender. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.